Smart living hacks you'll actually use. Your home policy may miss the wet stuff. Start by splitting your homeowner's policy into two buckets: property and liability. Property covers the house, detached structures like a garage, shed, or fence, personal belongings. Basically, what would fall out if you flipped the house upside down, and loss of use if a major claim forces you into a hotel or apartment. Liability is the lawsuit side for injury or property damage, plus medical payments for someone hurt at your place when it was not your fault. Now hunt for gaps before you need them. Standard policies may cover wind and storms, but weather-related water coming in from outside is not the same as a pipe bursting in your kitchen. For that outside water, you need separate flood coverage. If water backs up into the basement from a drain or sewer issue, look for a water backup endorsement. And for jewelry, consider a separate jewelry policy instead of attaching it to the home policy, because a jewelry claim on the home policy can raise your homeowner's premium. Your week needs a 5-minute reset. Here's the whole method. Open a notebook or a digital note and make 3 columns: plus, minus, and next. Plus is for what went well, what you finished, what brought you joy, or what you feel grateful for. Minus is for challenges, obstacles, setbacks, missed chances, unfinished work, mistakes, neglected areas, or negative feelings. Then next asks, based on all that, what do you want to do soon? Use whatever time frame makes the review useful. A week is a nice rhythm, but you can also do this for a day, a meeting, a weekend, a month, or even a yearly review. And this is the part that keeps it practical. Your next column does not have to answer every plus or fix every minus. Some notes are just information. Write them down, notice the pattern, and pick one realistic next move instead of turning your reflection into a giant to-do list. Your long weekend needs a simple recipe. Here's the core move. Give each day one anchor activity, something with just enough weight that the day feels like it actually happened. Decide it ahead of time, especially if family or friends are involved, and note when you need to leave. That way, you spend the weekend doing the thing, not burning energy debating the thing. Build the recipe from places and activities you've already been meaning to try. Look at your local wish list. What sounds fun within about an hour of home? Then balance the weekend with a physical activity, a social activity, and something spiritual or awe-building, like a ride, a barbecue, a service, volunteering, or a view from a hill. Also, choose your downtime default before the weekend starts. A puzzle, a great book, or supplies for a hobby, so small gaps don't turn into aimless scrolling. And for the final night, plan something easy but pleasant. Having that little finale gives you something to look forward to instead of letting back to normal feelings eat up the last stretch. Microwave splatter everywhere? Don't scrub yet. The easiest microwave clean starts before the mess. Cover whatever you're heating, so sauces and leftovers don't burst all over the walls. If the splatter already happened, don't attack it dry. Put water in a microwave-safe bowl. Squeeze in both halves of a lemon, drop the peels in too, and heat it for about 3 minutes. That little lemon steam session softens the greasy buildup, so the stuck-on bits wipe off instead of making you fight for every spot. When the time is up, carefully take the bowl out and work while the inside is still steamy. Start with the inside of the door, then wipe the side walls, the top, and the turntable with a microfiber cloth. The goal is to touch every interior surface, while that loosened grease is easy to lift. Once the inside is spotless, do the outside too. For the electronic panel, spray your cleaner onto the cloth first. Then wipe the panel with the damp cloth instead of spraying the buttons directly. Need more friends? Stop searching so vaguely. The useful move is to name the plan you are missing. Someone for movies, runs, walks, or a slow Saturday brunch. That works because I need more friends is usually too blurry. What you often mean is, I want a person who can do this specific thing with me. Once you define the X or Y, the search stops feeling like a personality audition and starts looking like a practical errand. Now match the need to the place. If you want a running friend, try group runs hosted by a local running store or nearby gym. Then notice who you click with. If you want another parent for afternoon playground trips, pay attention at the library or at a 10 a.m. story time where people are more likely to be free during the day. Start with the context, not the grand life bond. A low-pressure activity gives you repeated, easy contact, and over years of weekly runs or regular meetups, one of those context friends may naturally become a deeper friend. AI feels dumb? Your prompt may be too vague. The quick fix is to stop asking in foggy language and give the AI a job it can actually follow. Instead of saying, "Summarize this, say what you want, what matters most, and how the answer should look," for example, summarize the 3 most important points in a bullet list. Then name the format up front, whether that is a table, JSON, or a specific voice. Clear instructions give the model fewer ways to guess, so the output usually lands much closer to what you pictured. Match the prompt to the difficulty. For a simple, general question, 0 shot is fine. Just give the task, with no examples. If you need a very specific pattern, tone, or layout, use few-shot prompting by giving 3 to 5 examples of the exact output you want. For tougher math or logic, add, "Let's think carefully, step by step," so the model shows its reasoning instead of jumping straight to an answer. And for an even harder task, ask it to break the job into smaller subproblems first. One last line is surprisingly useful. Tell it that if information is missing, it can say, "I don't know." That helps reduce made-up facts. Native gardens look slow until year 3. Use the gardener's rule of thumb: sleep, creep, leap. In year 1, don't panic if your native bed looks like it's barely doing anything. The plants are mostly settling in. In year 2, they start to creep along and put on a little more growth. Year 3 is usually the fun part, when the bed fills out and finally starts looking lush. So if you're building this on a budget with smaller plants or seeds, patience is not a backup plan, it is the plan. Here's the practical setup. Treat the first few years like the establishment phase. Keep an eye on dry spells, especially during drought or unusually dry weather, and water when the new plants need help getting rooted. But don't confuse native with do nothing. A native garden still needs attention, just less over time. Once the plants are established, you should be mowing less lawn, fussing less with inputs, and letting plants that actually fit your region do more of the work for you. Stuck on kids? Let 2 chairs do the talking. Here's the move. Don't start with a pros and cons list. Set up a little chair talk with yourself instead. One side gets to speak as the part of you that wants a child, the other side speaks as the part that doesn't. The point is not to win the argument. It's to hear which voice sounds more true, more alive, or more relieved once it finally gets space. To try it, place 2 chairs facing each other and do it alone, not as a performance for your partner. Sit in one chair and speak as the "Yes, I want this" voice. Then move to the other chair and speak as the voice that is scared, resistant, or saying no. Keep switching as the 2 sides respond. Watch your body while you talk. Do you sit up straighter? Feel more alert? Get angry? Plead? Soften? Or suddenly feel a drop in tension? That shift is the useful information. If you have a partner, bring those values into the conversation afterward. That's it for today. Subscribe for a new guide every day.